Hi folks, welcome to my new workshop. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how I did this epoxy floor, so stick around and we'll make a start. Today it's all about the floor. We're going to make a start on the epoxy. Now I've got 3 coats to do. The first one is a primer. I don't think we needed it, but I bought it anyway. I think it's just going to help with the coverage of the other coats. So this is, I think, probably just like the same as the next coat, but it's really to seal porous subbases. So if you had an older concrete floor, this would definitely be the way to go. Here's a quick look at how we got to this point. So as you can see, we got the self-leveling down. We're nice and smooth now. We're not perfectly level, but we're much better than we were. And we've now gone over with an 80 grit sandpaper and got a good key ready for this stuff. Will's gonna give me a hand today, so that means that we can get the upstand done and the main floor at the same time. Quick disclaimer, although I have used epoxy flooring before, I'm no expert, so I'm going to link to all the info if you need to find out from the true professionals and the manufacturers. First job is to mix up the resin itself. This is not our final colour, this looks like it's going to end up white, so we need to give it a good stir. It says to stir it with something flat and wide, like a piece of timber first, and then we'll use a mixer. And then this is the actual curing bit, which activates and then only gives you an hour or 2 to get it all on. And these are already measured out, so we know that we don't have to do any measuring, and we can't split the batches. You have to use the quantities that they come in. Right, the plan of action is we're going to split the contents into the tray and into a tub. That way we can do one brush in the upstand, one roll in the floor, and we're not going to get in the way of each other. We don't really want it sitting in the tin with epoxy, so we're going to get it out as much as possible. So getting there, I think the coverage is about spot on. We've got about a quarter of the room to do still. It's quite patchy, but I guess that's because it's soaking in. It might even out, but the main priority for this is the fact that it's sealing the floor rather than giving us any form of like aesthetics. Hopefully this is a good dry run for tomorrow, so it gives us a good idea of how to do the application, because we started in opposite corners, and of course I can't roll away from the wall too far, because otherwise Will couldn't cut in on the upstand. But we're in now. The only thing I'm spotting is some of those bubbles that are left from the self-leveling are showing through in places where I couldn't even see them before. So I'm hoping that this will fill those, or at least start to fill them, and then tomorrow the next layer should smooth that out before our final top coat. Hi folks, we're going to pause the video. Here's a little sneak peek of how we actually get on in the end, but don't look at that. We just wanted to say that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then you should do so, because there's lots going on. There's always going to be lots going on. So hopefully if you subscribe, click the bell symbol, then you won't miss any of it. Anyway, back on with this. Well, it's dry, but it is 10:30 at night. Let's do it. We also get to see the colour for the first time. grey. It's basically going to look like what what we had this morning before we painted it white. I was going to nip over and pick up spiked soles, you know, that you can strap to your shoes so you can walk on it, but it's half an hour either way and it's I'm already knackered. So we're going to crack on and just get it done as it is. I can back myself out to the door like I've done before. Well, we are a couple of days on. It's been a bit of an ordeal getting to this point, but let me show you how the floor is looking. Right, let me explain where we're at. I was a little bit nervous yesterday. I painted this at midnight on Wednesday, and all of Thursday it was just still tacky. I had a 2 kilowatt heater down there, which I could turn off from outside the building. I could turn on and off. It helped a little bit, but then finally this morning when I came in, it had dried up enough. So I'm in bare feet, or I'm in socks on it now, because I don't want to leave any indents. If I was to push a fingernail into it, it would just about leave a mark. There are a couple of issues though, let me show you those before we move on any further. So one gamble I took is when I put down the self-leveling compound, the one I used was a heavy duty industrial one, and it has fibres in it. Now, I knew that they would be there, and normally when you put it down you don't see them, but because we keyed the surface, it makes them spike up a little bit. I then put the primer down, and that made them kind of stand up in a way that I could see them quite easily. At that point, I should have knocked them all back. I thought that the high build epoxy might cover them enough, but I can still see them, and they almost look like when you put the aggregate in for a non-slip floor. I'm going to try and just give them a quick rub over, because they like almost snap off. And then our final coat should cover the lot and make it smooth. That definitely worked. It was able to knock off all of the hairy bits. So now we are pretty much smooth. There are a few dimples in there, but I think that's more from the roller than it is from anything else. I see some people when they do the epoxy, they use like a flood method. And it goes on really thick, and then they use a squeegee and almost trowel it out more like a self-leveling compound. I'm not sure if this is a different gear, but either way, this is much more of a paint that you brush on, and it does self-smooth a little bit. But to be quite honest, I'm happy with it not being too glossy, otherwise we're either going to be quite slippy in here, but also it's just going to show up any of the imperfections in the floor. But at the moment, it's looking pretty good. Obviously, it's a little bit hazy and matte where I've sanded it. You can see a few of the little dips in the reflection there. Well, there we go, folks. The floor is done and the workshop is almost ready to move into. Now, you'll have to ignore the fact that the lighting is done and the electrics is done. That'll be in a future video, but for now, let's talk flooring. The flooring, I would say, is kind of a mid-gloss, or it's got a bit of a sheen to it, so it's not high-gloss epoxy you can get, which is fortunate, because if you do get super smooth gloss floors, as soon as you get a bit of sawdust on them, they get a bit slippy, and also any of the imperfections in our concrete would really stand out. So going for a mid-grey colour and also a relatively matte-ish finish is a lot more durable and forgiving for our floor. The floor has a bit of a texture to it just from the roller and also from where we had those issues with the fibres. They were sanded off, so there's nothing protruding up. It's already a bit grubby in here and it's probably hard to tell, but this is a smooth finish, but I would say it's slightly dimpled. If anything, that's just going to give us a little bit more grip and not be too slippy and slidey when it gets wet. As far as the costings go, I spent £165 on all of the products I used. I didn't end up using the etching because I wasn't meant to. That's only for use on bare concrete. And also, if you really wanted to, you could skip out that sealer, that primer that we put on first. In all reality, I think it did a good job because although we didn't have a dusty floor, it really gave us a nice sealed surface to then go on with the proper coats, and we might have used less epoxy, or at least the coverage was more even. We had the heater on and that worked quite well, but I would say that with this product in particular, if it's a shed or a garage or anything like that, give yourself a couple of days per coat because it just doesn't cure as quick as you might think. It said 16 hours or something on the tin, but in reality, 2 days is safe. If you were inside in the house, it would be a different story. And really, it's a fairly inexpensive way to go. £150 for a 30 square metre room like this gives us a super durable finish, easy to clean, and I guess we could always put a top coat on this in the future if we needed to. Anyway, with all the products, I'm going to put a full list below. They are a UK company that we use, and I think they sell on Amazon, so you can head over. If you use those links, we get a few pennies and that helps support the channel. But any questions, stick them down below. Hopefully this gives us a nice blank canvas to move everything into, and it won't be long before I can share all of the lighting and all the good stuff that went on this weekend with the electricians. But thank you for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.